A place to bury strangers, see through you, album review, let's chat about it. Hey guys, what's going on? John here from What's Spinning here, not to chat about this latest from A Place to Bury Strangers. Infamous, legendary New York City based noise rockers, A Place to Bury Strangers, who in their early days blew my mind, my speakers. I mean, come on, their self-titled album, at the time that it came out, I was into shoegaze, noise rock, and post-punk. And here was a band that was putting all three of them together with some really catchy and captivating songwriting. It's still, to this day, a wonderful debut album that's aged pretty well as well. It still sounds great. And in a lot of ways, their follow-up, Exploding Head, means just as much to me, even more so in parts. But after that, me and A Place to Bury Strangers really just parted ways as far as my fandom goes for a really, really long time. The interesting sounds and influences and performances did not translate as all to Worship. It is not a very good album, and Transfixiation is not much better. This album just gave me a headache, but not like a fun noise rock one. No, this just gave me a headache because it just sounded terrible. And the year it came out, I named Pinned one of my worst albums of the year. There is a reason why. It is not a good album. So, that being said, why am I here? That's because last year, 2021, saw A Place to Bury Strangers put out their Hologram EP, and I was very surprised to hear that this was easily their best material since Exploding Head. The excitement, the danger, the clashing styles and performances were back again for a series of very entertaining tunes. And leading up to this album, I thought they were putting out some pretty decent singles. Let's chat about it. This album starts off with Nice of You to Be There For Me, and honestly, it's a very hectic, tense start. It's a little tinny in parts, which I'm not the biggest fan of, but I think it actually works with the very heady, agitated sounds of this track. It's very anxious, it's very twisted, it just plays off everything A Place to Bury Strangers have been known for over the years. And yeah, I might have wanted a little something more explosive or noisy right off the bat, but this is actually really great as an intro. I mean, as far as their last three releases go, this is it better than anything on them. And I also love how hypnotic this is. I love this. Then we have I'm Hurt. I've loved this since it dropped. I love the bulky production. I love the gothic tinge to it all. There's also just this feeling of dread, and I love how oddly colorful this track is. As a matter of fact, a lot of tracks on this album are on the more colorful side of things, which is weird. And the way that this track paces along, it's so twisted, so sinister. I love it. I mean, I personally love my post-punk in this vein. In a weird way, this track and a lot of the tracks on this album sound like what they were aiming for on albums like Worship and Transfixiation and Pinned, but just much better put together. Even the noisier moments on this track sound great. I mean, I'm not going to say this album is perfect. It's far from it. There are issues with this album still, but I haven't had this much to report on A Place to Bury Strangers in the full album sense in a long time. So Low is, on the other hand, one of the noisiest and wild tracks here. It is grim, it is explosive, it is massively depressive too. I feel like my ears are going to get blown out, but in a good way. It's honestly probably one of the most true to form A Place to Bury Strangers tracks here, and it has that sense of danger once again too. It's also just catchy enough to really stick with you. I'm a big fan of Ringing Bells as well. This track is so streamlined, so grisly, so sleek. Once again, this sounds like, I don't know, like a really glossed up and well-executed track from Pinned. I love the super noisy, heady instrumentals. I love this chorus here that's actually one of the more memorable ones on the album. Just so muscular, and it continues to be oddly colorful too. And I Disappear When You're Near is, I think, the best track here. It's fantastic, it's drawn out, it's kind of bluesy in a way, but it's just so tortured, so exhausted. It sounds like it would have taken up residence on the Roadhouse on Twin Peaks. It's kaleidoscopic. It's really hard to pinpoint at times. It is great. Now, while this album is much better, I still find a lot of issues with modern day A Place to Bury Strangers. Let's See Each Other gives me a lot of pinned vibes. I don't know. It's just not for me. It's a little too cookie cutter. It's a little too plain Jane. Like, this sounds like an AI tried to make a post-punk tinged goth rock tune and just this is what came out. It's fine. It's serviceable, but it's just not exciting. Dragged in a Hole is pretty disappointing too. I actually love how upbeat and noisy this is. That actually pumped me up. But I don't know. It's kind of needlessly heady. It doesn't have a lot of direction to it. Like, this could have been a lot more exciting if it had maybe a little bit more, I don't know, a little bit more on track. I have a lot of the same things to say about Anyone But You. Once again, it is wild. It is upbeat. It is off the rails sounding. These are all things that I love about A Place to Bury Strangers, but I don't know. This sounds like them pulling off, or at least trying to pull off, a cover of a 60s pop tune. Like, it's got like a big, glorious hook that's actually pretty catchy, but I don't know. This could have worked. This could have been, if they made it a little darker, a little edgier, this could have worked, but it's just like this weird in-between, between like a really decent Place to Bury Strangers track and a really awkward cover. Broken should have been a knockout. Commanding vocals, the very busy instrumental. Once again, the tinny production is very average. The performances here are underwhelming. It's just not memorable. I mean, I do like the guitar solo, but And I don't know how you do it. I have a lot of the same feelings on. Once again, this is odd. This sounds like A Place to Bury Strangers, once again, in cover mode. And yeah, there's some good elements to this track. There are things to this track that are actually pretty exciting from a distance, but then you closer inspect them and things are a little too anthemic. It's odd. Let me tell you, though, this album may not be perfect. There's still a lot of things wrong with modern day A Place to Bury Strangers, but I still think you're not going to want to miss this if you're a fan. My Head Is Bleeding might be the best deep cut here. I love the looming bass riff here and the commanding vocals. It's all just so brazen, so in your face. This is why I initially loved their music. Then I hear Hold On Tight and I feel like I'm 15 years old again discovering this band for the first time. This is a wild, noisy, sincerely out of control track from A Place to Bury Strangers, literally introducing you to their sound. Like, if you don't know them, give this track a shot. It literally is them to a T. All of the influences, all the different sounds clashing together in an exciting way. That's what you get here. It just sounds like it's gonna rip your speakers apart in the best way. And also has this spontaneity to it. Like, it sounds like it was recorded in one wild, chaotic take that's gonna be documented for us all to see. It's gonna be awesome. And Love Reaches Out is a weird finale, but one that actually works pretty well. I mean, there's been tracks on here that have been oddly colorful, and there's been tracks on here that have been a little too catchy for my taste, but this is a great example of what could have been with those tracks. Once again, it is a little bit brighter, it is a little catchier, and it is a little bit more colorful. But this almost comes off like, I don't know, like the poppier side of Chromatics, or like some really great dance punk with some post-punk infused. It's actually one of the catchiest tracks here in that vein and done really well. Yeah, this is an album that is actually pretty decent. I mean, it's not great. It's not, a must-listen album. But if you consider yourself a fan of A Place to Bury Strangers, especially if you've been disappointed by their last few releases, like I have, you're going to want to hear this. It's not perfect, but they are easily sounding more like themselves, more focused, and more exhilarating than they have in quite some time. As a matter of fact, they kind of sound like they've taken the ideas from their last 3 records and shined them up to what they're supposed to sound like in 2022 from some noise rock and shoegaze legends. Check it out. It's pretty decent. Feeling a light 7 on this bad boy, but let me know what you guys think down below. If you like the video, be sure to give us a like, give us a subscribe, and let me know down below what you would like for me to chat about in the future. Until next time, have a great day, guys.